Loneliness is a symptom, not the disease. This may sound surprising to many because people usually experience it as something very real, very painful, even unbearable at times. But the moment we mistake the symptom for the cause, we start treating the wrong thing. It is like having a fever and thinking the fever is the problem, not realizing that it is just the body's response to something deeper going wrong. The same way, loneliness is a signal. It is not the core issue. It is just the surface expression of something much more fundamental that has been neglected within ourselves. Human beings have become so outwardly focused that they have lost connection with their own inner space. We are constantly looking for stimulation through phones, people, entertainment, or work. Every spare moment is filled with noise, not just outside but also within. So when there is suddenly silence, when there is no one around or nothing to distract you, a sense of emptiness creeps in. That emptiness feels like loneliness. But that emptiness is not caused by the absence of people. It is caused by the absence of you. You are not in touch with yourself. So when external things are taken away, there is a void. People have been trained to look for solutions on the outside. If you are feeling low, meet a friend. If you are feeling lonely, find a relationship. If you are feeling empty, go shopping, go traveling, keep yourself busy. This way, we never get to the root of the problem. We are treating symptoms with band-aids without addressing the wound underneath. This is why loneliness keeps coming back, no matter how many people we surround ourselves with. Because the disease has not been addressed, the disease of disconnection with our own being. The irony is that loneliness often grows strongest in the middle of relationships. You may have experienced this. Being in a relationship, being in a family, being with friends, yet feeling utterly alone. That tells us something important. This is not about physical presence or absence. It is about an internal state where something is missing. You are not comfortable with your own presence. And the moment you are not comfortable with yourself, you will always feel lonely, even in a crowd. When a person is truly in touch with their inner dimension, they can sit alone for hours, days, even weeks, without feeling lonely. There will be a deep sense of peace, even joy, not because they are avoiding people, but because they have become whole within themselves. Their presence is no longer dependent on someone else's presence. Their experience of life is no longer dictated by external company. That is when you know you have started to heal, not just the loneliness, but the actual root of it. This does not mean we should not connect with others. Human connection is beautiful, even necessary in many ways. But when it becomes a need rather than a choice, it turns into bondage. When you are needy, you cannot truly love. You cannot truly relate. You are only trying to fill a hole within yourself. That is not connection, that is desperation. True companionship can only happen when two whole beings come together, not to complete each other, but to celebrate each other. Loneliness is the opportunity life gives you to turn inward. It is an invitation, but most people run away from it, thinking something is wrong. They fear silence because they think it means something is missing. But silence is not absence. Silence is presence, if you are willing to sit with it. If you stop reacting to it and start observing it, you will begin to see that loneliness is not an enemy. It is a pointer showing you something valuable. That your inner self needs attention, not just your social calendar. This journey inward is not about becoming a hermit. It is about becoming available to life in its fullest form. When you start spending time with yourself, not in isolation but in awareness, you begin to notice the layers within you that you have ignored. The fears, the insecurities, the longing, all of it starts to surface. And instead of suppressing them, you begin to understand them. That understanding is the medicine. That clarity is what begins to dissolve the root of loneliness. You are not lonely, you are just unfamiliar with yourself. This might seem like a strange statement because loneliness feels so external, as if it's about not having people around, not having someone to talk to, not having someone who understands you. But the real question is, do you understand you? Most people spend their entire lives looking out through the window of their senses, seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, constantly absorbing the world outside. But rarely do they turn inward and truly get to know the one being who is present in every moment of their life, themselves. When you are unfamiliar with yourself, there's a constant need for someone else to mirror you, to validate you, to tell you who you are. You begin to define yourself by how others see you, how they respond to you, how they treat you. And when those responses are missing or not what you hope for, you feel lost. That lostness, that lack of self-connection is what gives rise to the experience of loneliness. It's not the absence of people, it's the absence of you in your own life. You are there physically, but inwardly you're not whole. Most people mistake their personality for their self. But your personality is just a social mask. It is something you picked up from the world, from your upbringing, your culture, your experiences. It is not your essence. It is a patchwork of impressions, identities, labels. And when life pushes you into situations where none of these masks seem to work, when you feel unseen, unheard, misunderstood, you start to feel empty. That emptiness is not because you are alone. It is because you have never really met yourself beyond those masks. Being unfamiliar with yourself means that you are not at ease with being alone. You don't know how to sit quietly without distractions. You feel restless, uneasy, even anxious when there is nothing to do, nothing to chase, no one to impress. This discomfort is a reflection of how little time you have spent simply being, not doing, not performing, just being. And when you are uncomfortable with your own presence, loneliness becomes inevitable. You begin to look for people, not because you want to share your joy, but because you want to escape your own emptiness. But if you were truly familiar with yourself, if you knew the depth and richness of your own inner world, then being alone would not feel like a punishment. It would feel like a retreat, a chance to reconnect. You would begin to enjoy your own presence as much as, if not more than, the company of others. Because now you are not depending on others to make you feel alive. You are alive within yourself. You are enough. Familiarity with yourself comes only through awareness. It does not come from thinking about yourself or forming opinions about yourself. It comes from observation. Just watching how your mind functions, how emotions rise and fall, how thoughts come and go. Observing not with judgment, but with curiosity. When you do this consistently, you begin to see patterns. You start to notice what triggers you, what inspires you, what drains you. You begin to understand your mind like you would understand a close friend, not perfectly, but deeply. And when you understand yourself, even your so-called flaws stop feeling like enemies. You realize that your anger, your sadness, your fear, they are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are simply energies that have not been understood. The moment you stop resisting them and instead meet them with awareness, they begin to transform. And as this transformation happens, the inner space that once felt chaotic and unfamiliar starts to feel like home. The tragedy is that in modern life, people are taught everything except how to be with themselves. You can study for years and earn degrees, but still not know how to sit in silence without needing stimulation. You can have thousands of friends online and still not be in touch with your own breath, your own heartbeat, your own presence. This is not intelligence. This is a kind of unconsciousness, and it is this unconsciousness that breeds loneliness. Once you begin to turn inward, even slightly, something begins to shift. You start to realize that loneliness is not the monster you thought it was. It is simply the discomfort of being with a stranger, and that stranger is you. But the beautiful thing is, the more time you spend with this stranger, the less strange you feel. The more familiar you become with yourself, the more you enjoy your own company. And from that space, you can truly connect with others. Not out of need. External company cannot fix an internal absence. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of human experience. People believe that if they are feeling low, feeling lonely, feeling incomplete in some way, then the solution lies in finding someone, a friend, a partner, a group, a community, to make them feel whole again. But this search, though very natural, often leads to more confusion and disappointment. Because no matter how many people gather around you, if there is a gap within you, that emptiness will remain untouched. You can drown in conversation, drown in activity, drown in social connection, but that quiet ache inside doesn't disappear. It simply gets buried under noise. This is not a rejection of human connection. Relationships, friendships, family, all these have their place in life. But their place is not to complete you. They are meant to be an expression of your completeness, not a substitute for it. When you lean on others to fill your inner void, you place an impossible burden on them. You expect them to heal a wound they cannot even see. And sooner or later, this creates conflict, disappointment, and often even deeper loneliness than before. When something is missing inside, it is not companionship that will heal it. It is consciousness. It is awareness. You need to look inward and see what exactly is missing. Is it self-respect? Is it inner clarity? Is it emotional understanding? Is it simply the habit of distraction that has left you uncomfortable with your own presence? Whatever it is, it needs to be seen clearly, because only in clarity does transformation begin. If you simply run to someone else every time you feel hollow inside, you are running away from the very thing that needs your attention. The tendency to fix the inner world through outer means is not just emotional, it is also cultural. Society teaches us from a very young age that happiness is somewhere out there, in success, in relationships, in achievements. So when you feel low or disconnected, your first instinct is to reach outwards, buy something, meet someone, post something, prove something, but all these are just attempts to mask the inner absence. They do not cure it. In fact, the more you depend on external solutions for internal problems, the more disempowered you become. The real work begins when you stop looking outside and begin to observe what's happening inside, not to judge it, not to suppress it, but simply to sit with it. To become intimate with your own pain, your own silence, your own longing. This may not feel comfortable at first. In fact, it may feel very raw. But it is only by going through that discomfort that you begin to find what is truly missing. You begin to discover the parts of you that have been ignored, the emotions that were never understood, the thoughts that have been looping without resolution. There is a strength that comes from learning to sit with yourself. When you no longer fear your own presence, when you are no longer restless without company, a deep sense of freedom begins to arise. Not because you don't need anyone, but because you are no longer dependent. You begin to relate with others from a place of strength, not need. Your presence becomes nourishing, not demanding. And the irony is, this makes relationships much richer, more authentic, more joyful. But the journey to that space is not about isolating yourself from others. It is about becoming available to yourself. You begin to carve out moments of stillness, moments of reflection, not to escape the world, but to return to it more whole. Every time you choose to meet your loneliness with awareness instead of distraction, you reclaim a part of yourself. Every time you sit in silence, instead of running toward noise, you deepen your relationship with the one person who will always be with you. This kind of inner work requires patience. The modern mind is so conditioned to seek quick fixes that anything which takes time feels frustrating. But life's real treasures do not come quickly. They come silently, slowly, like a tree taking root beneath the soil. You may not see the change right away, but something begins to shift. You start to feel less desperate for company. You start to enjoy solitude. You begin to experience a quiet contentment, even in the absence of others. And from that space, when you do connect with someone, it's not because you need them to fix you. It's because you want to share what you've discovered within. Your joy becomes infectious. Your presence becomes grounding. You are no longer using others as a crutch. You are walking freely, lightly, open to life in all its forms. Stillness is not loneliness. It is the presence of life in its purest form. But for most people, stillness has become something to fear. The moment there is nothing to do, nothing to watch, nothing to scroll, they become restless. That restlessness is not about boredom. It is the discomfort of meeting themselves without distraction. They have been moving, talking, acting, doing constantly, not because they are always joyful, but because they are trying to stay away from the silence within. Silence, for someone who is unaware, feels like a void, but silence for someone who is conscious feels like fullness. When the external world quiets down, the internal world becomes louder. That is why people avoid stillness. In stillness, all your suppressed thoughts, ignored emotions, and forgotten pieces of yourself begin to surface. And when these things rise, they can feel overwhelming. But they are not your enemies. They are your neglected aspects, waiting to be acknowledged. Stillness gives them space to be seen. And in that seeing, a transformation begins. What once felt like loneliness starts to feel like a kind of gentle presence. Something deeper than thought, deeper than emotion, more intimate than any relationship. Most people confuse movement with life. They believe that the more they do, the more they live. But life does not happen because of activity. Life happens because you are alive. You can be running around all day and still feel lifeless. And you can sit completely still and feel a surge of vitality within you. The key is awareness. Without awareness, even a crowded life can feel lonely. With awareness, even the quietest moment becomes rich with aliveness. Sickness is a doorway, it is not a dead end, but you can only pass through that doorway if you stop resisting it. When you sit still, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, energetically, something beautiful begins to unfold. The noise of the mind settles. The waves of emotion calm down, and what remains is not a blankness, but a kind of luminous presence. That presence is not coming from outside, it is your own essence revealing itself. You begin to see that you are not just this body, not just this mind, not just this personality. There is something more, vast, silent, alive. Loneliness, on the other hand, comes from disconnection. Not from disconnection with people, but disconnection with yourself. And when you are disconnected from yourself, silence feels like an enemy. You try to run away from it through stimulation. But that stimulation never satisfies you. It only delays the encounter with your own being. Stillness, however, invites you into that encounter. It is not an escape from life. It is a deep dive into life. Not the life that is constantly changing on the outside, but the life that always is. The unchanging background to all your experiences. To begin to appreciate stillness, one must shift from doing to being. Doing has its place, but being is the foundation. Without being, all your doing becomes restless, compulsive, even meaningless. When you learn to simply sit, not in boredom, not in waiting, but in presence, a profound sense of okayness arises. Not because everything is perfect outside, but because something is complete inside. You're no longer trying to fix the moment, change the moment, escape the moment. You are simply in it, fully. It takes courage to be still in a world that glorifies busyness. It takes inner strength to sit with your own thoughts, your own emotions, without needing to act on them or run from them. But the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. What once felt like loneliness starts to become a kind of companionship. A companionship with existence itself. You begin to see that you are never really alone. Life is always here, always now, always breathing through you. This is not about becoming passive or withdrawn, it is about finding your center. When you know that center, you can move through the world with a different kind of confidence. You are no longer chasing people to feel connected, no longer afraid of silence, no longer filling every moment with noise just to avoid yourself. You begin to move from stillness, not from anxiety. You begin to speak from clarity, not from need. You begin to relate from completeness, not from lack. The beauty of stillness is that it is always available. It doesn't depend on your circumstances. It doesn't require a perfect environment. It only requires your willingness to stop running, to stop pretending, to stop distracting, and just be. In that being, there is a quiet revolution. You begin to feel more whole, more grounded, more alive than ever before. And the world, which once felt heavy and distant, starts to feel like a reflection. Create inner chemistry, not outer dependency. This is the essence of true freedom and well-being. Human beings today have become overly dependent on the external world to feel good within themselves. Whether it is relationships, possessions, achievements, or even just routine comforts, the inner experience of life is being outsourced to things and people outside. When your joy, your peace, your sense of self is tied to something that is not you, then your life becomes a pendulum, swinging from happiness to despair, from hope to disappointment, depending entirely on things you cannot fully control. Inner chemistry means that your body, mind, and energies are functioning in harmony. It means that your system is generating the experience of well-being from within, not waiting for the world to deliver it. When your chemistry is balanced, you feel peaceful without reason, joyful without cause. This is not some mystical state. It is simply an intelligent way to live. If your body is functioning well, you feel physically healthy. If your mind is balanced, you experience clarity. If your emotions are sweet, you feel love. If your energies are vibrant, you feel alive. These are all aspects of your inner chemistry. And the beauty is, you can take charge of them. But instead of learning to manage this inner system, most people are trying to fix their lives by managing others. They want their partner to behave a certain way, their friends to say the right things, their job to be fulfilling, their social media to be validating. And when none of this aligns perfectly, they feel lost, anxious, or depressed. This is because their inner chemistry is being dictated by outer variables. And as long as this is the case, loneliness becomes inevitable. Because no matter how many people you surround yourself with, you are always reacting, always needing, always depending. Taking charge of your inner chemistry begins with awareness. You must first observe how your inner states fluctuate. You must notice how your mood changes based on small triggers, a comment, a message, a memory, a situation. When you begin to see this clearly without judgment, you understand how much power you have given away. You are no longer the creator of your experience. You are just reacting to life like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. This recognition is not meant to make you feel guilty, but to awaken the possibility of freedom. There are tools and practices to shift this dynamic: breathwork, meditation, conscious movement, mindful eating, and above all, awareness. These are not religious or spiritual luxuries, they are the science of being human. When practiced regularly, they help align your body and mind, calm your nervous system, and stabilize your emotional responses. Over time, they create a chemistry within you that supports joy, clarity, and resilience. And when you reach this state, you no longer depend on others to make you feel okay. You begin to relate with people from a place of fullness, not from lack. Dependency is not love. Neediness is not connection. When you depend on someone else to make you feel worthy, to make you feel seen, to make you feel alive, you are setting yourself up for suffering. Because no human being can play that role perfectly all the time. People change. Situations change. Emotions change. If your inner experience is riding on this unstable wave, you will always feel threatened. You will always feel like something is missing. That missing feeling is not because the other person failed you. It is because you have not yet tapped into the well-being that is available within you. Creating inner chemistry is also about what you consume. Not just food, but thoughts, emotions, conversations, environments. Everything you expose yourself to becomes a part of your system. If you constantly feed yourself fear, comparison, noise, and distraction, your inner chemistry becomes chaotic. But if you begin to choose what supports your balance, what nurtures your clarity, what strengthens your body, and calms your mind, your system starts to respond. It starts to work for you, not against you, and that makes all the difference. Loneliness often comes not from the absence of others, but from the absence of a stable, joyful inner core. When that core is missing, you will seek someone else to fix it. But no matter how much someone loves you, they cannot enter your system and turn your chemistry right. That is your work. And it is the most empowering work you can do. Because once you learn to generate joy within yourself, you are no longer begging the world for scraps of happiness. Connection with existence is the ultimate antidote to loneliness. When you feel isolated, it is not because you are truly alone. It is because you have lost your sense of belonging with life itself. Most people think connection comes only through other human beings, through relationships, through companionship. But that is just one layer. The deeper connection is not with another person. It is with the very fabric of life that breathes through you, that holds everything together. The wind, the trees, the sky, the earth beneath your feet, the silent intelligence that organizes everything from the movement of galaxies to the beating of your heart. Modern life has made people highly functional but deeply disconnected. Everything is optimized, planned, scheduled. But in all that busyness, people have forgotten how to simply be. To sit under a tree and feel its stillness. To watch the stars without needing to understand them. To breathe in the morning air without thinking of work. This simple, wordless intimacy with existence has been lost. And in that loss, a strange kind of loneliness has entered human life. Not just the loneliness of not having someone, but the loneliness of not feeling part of something greater. You are not a separate entity dropped into this world. You are a part of it. Every cell in your body is made from the elements of this planet. Every breath you take is a conversation with the trees. The food you eat, the water you drink, the warmth you feel. All of it is life talking to you, nourishing you, keeping you here. Yet most people go through life as if they are orphans in a universe that doesn't care. That illusion of separation is the real root of loneliness. And the moment you see through it, something shifts inside you. You no longer feel like a stranger on this planet. To reconnect with existence, you do not need philosophy or religion. You just need presence. You need to be here, fully, not lost in your head, not trapped in your phone, not chasing something in the future. Just here, right now, because existence is only available in this moment. If you are caught in memory or imagination, you are missing the one place where life is actually happening. This is not a denial of thought, but a recognition that thought is secondary. The primary experience is this breath, this heartbeat, the sky above you. People often try to fill their loneliness with more interaction, more activity, more content. But sometimes what the soul really craves is not noise, but connection. And true connection is not something you force. It is something you open yourself to. It is already there, waiting for you to notice. Just the way a flower does not go in search of a bee, it simply becomes fragrant, and the bees come. In the same way, when you become still and attentive, life starts to reveal its intimacy to you. There is a certain grace in being able to sit quietly and feel connected to everything, even when there is no one around. That is not loneliness, that is aloneness, and it is a very sacred state. In that aloneness, you begin to feel the pulse of life within you. You begin to realize that you are not just in the universe is in you. The same intelligence that spins the stars is the one that formed your bones and shaped your thoughts. This realization is not an idea, it is an experience, and it comes not through doing but through being. Sometimes, a walk in nature can be more healing than 1,000 conversations. The rustle of leaves, the rhythm of waves, the scent of rain on dry earth. These are not just sensory experiences. They are reminders. Reminders that you belong, that you are held, that you are part of something so vast, so intricate, so alive, that to feel lonely in His presence is to be asleep to its beauty. And when you start waking up to that, loneliness slowly dissolves into awe. The more connected you are with existence, the less desperate you become for validation. You no longer chase attention because you already feel seen. You no longer beg for love because you feel loved by life itself. And this does not make you cold or distant, it makes you overflow. Because now your relationships are no longer about need. They become a celebration, not a compensation. You are not trying to escape yourself through others. You are sharing yourself with them. This way of being is not limited to saints or sages. It is available to every human being who is willing to slow down, pay attention, and remember. Remember that beneath the surface of daily struggle, beneath the noise of thought and the pull of desire, there is a quiet rhythm, the rhythm of life itself. And when you tune into it, you are never really alone. You are in the company of existence.